have, since I came to Canada in 2016 as a Syrian refugee, I actually started working in resettling refugees with Lifeline Syria. And I've been a mediator for 10 years, I guess now. Yes, 10 years. So before coming to Canada, the first cases I took on was with St. Stephen Community House when they started a project to resolve conflict between Syrian newcomers and their sponsors. So, and since then, I actually worked for 4 or 5 years resettling refugees, and then I moved into conflict resolution. Conflict resolution always was my passion, but I was also enjoying working with the and for refugees or those who arrive as refugees to Canada. For today, I want to tell you last year, also that was 2022 and 2023, we actually delivered project for conflict resolution training in collaboration or funded actually by IRC, but in collaboration with RSTP. And we trained 410 refugee sponsors on how to resolve conflict, but that was 5 hours training, 3 hours of theoretical learning, and then 2 hours of role plays. So I just tried to summarize just the important point here. Just to tell you, for me, what I noticed mostly that the conflict between newcomers and their sponsors arises mainly due to um, cultural differences, which mostly misunderstood and misinterpreted, and sometimes it led to unintentional prejudice or biases from both sides. And the second one was lack or misinformation. Uh, both parties come to the relationship with maybe minimal information about each other's or about the program. And third was the communication. So today I will mostly focus, or actually third was the power imbalance, which led to some miscommunication. So today I'll focus on some power imbalance and how to de-escalate the conflict. Just about my firm, Aman Mediation, I mainly deal with family mediation, workplace conflict solutions as well, whether training, coaching, or focusing on creating an inclusive environment. So let's start with defining conflict. A conflict is a clash between individuals or a group of people. But what are the main reasons that actually trigger the conflict? If I may ask you all, if you want to give me any inputs, whether if you want to unmute yourself or just write in the chat. I know we don't have enough time, so I'll just go ahead probably. Is there anything in the chat? I see something. Okay, differences of opinion, 100%. And the opinion usually is like formatted or shaped in our brain based on some thought processes that we mostly learn in a childhood setting or in the school or in the neighborhood, attitudes, differences in understanding. So every one of us interpret the message differently, differences of interest. So my interest as a newcomer, maybe just to learn English. The sponsor sometimes, main interest was, helping them build their work skills, even if they don't have English, or maybe, helping them make some income right away. Also differences in needs or perceptions, that mainly perceptions are also formed due to or because of cultural background. I actually wish maybe sometimes in the future if I come back and just speak about cultural differences between in general between different cultures, different countries. So conflict, let me tell you something that we actually always advocated to, that people are not difficult, especially when it comes to refugees, but their behaviors and situations can look like very difficult because of the situation they went through. So we always want you to put yourself in the shoes of the refugees. I think now everyone sees what's happening in the world and how much people who actually fled you to violence suffer before they actually flee their countries. So conflict is part of life. It's part of the human interaction. But if we know how to handle it and how to manage it, we can turn it into an opportunity. We all can actually develop some strategies to de-escalate conflict and to build a lasting relationship, even if we ever had like conflict with other people. So probably I can touch on some strategies today that can help learn how to navigate this type of conflicts. So usually in a refugee sponsorship setting, there is some sources of power. Mainly the sponsors are the one who have the power, like access to resources. They have more like power in terms of like economy or in terms of even the relationship, how it's structured. There is more power for the sponsors. Sometimes the refugees themselves have more power, especially when they are part of a family member. Positions, personality power, education, language ability, and self-esteem. So think about all of these when the conflict happen. You know, one of those could be the reason of conflict arising. To mitigate this power imbalance, we always advocate for open communication. Be curious and present, ask a lot of questions, try to paraphrase, express yourself clearly, and ask the refugees also, you know, to express themselves. They may not be able to clearly maybe articulate themselves, but find ways how best for them to articulate themselves. I try to avoid making some unnecessary assumptions. We all actually make assumptions, and this is part of the nature of a human being, especially when we encounter people who we don't know. Um, Sorry about that. So try to check your own blind spot and work on them. Also, you know, have the courage to give voice to your own needs. So explain to the newcomers your needs, desires, and preferences. Like, for example, you know, I prefer to be called after 5 p.m. So they know that if they call during the day, you may not actually respond back to them. You prefer probably, you know, to do the orientation during a certain hours, or you are only to be contacted on Saturday or Sunday. So it's important to clarify from the beginning so you avoid any misunderstanding or miscommunication. Also, have the patience to listen and understand each other's views. Also, be patient, listen to them, express or exercise empathetic listening, which we will learn later. You know, acknowledge what they are saying, acknowledge their feelings. Be prepared to be empathetic and to actually even understand their positions, even if you don't actually agree on it. But it's important to understand where they are coming from. So also some of strategies to mitigate power imbalance is if they need interpreter, probably, you know, they feel more comfortable talking about their needs, about their concerns through an interpreter. If they want to bring someone to help them, especially if, you know, there is a conflict and you try to resolve this conflict, probably someone with them can support them to express themselves and, you know, to mitigate this power imbalance. If you are an organization, then probably if you have staff who have the same background, probably could help also mitigate the power imbalance, could help, you know, maybe remove some of the cultural barriers, the communication barriers. If you are in a conflict setting, so let them know that, you know, you are trying to resolve this, or if you interfere as a third party to resolve a conflict, let them know that this is voluntarily and, you know, you are not forcing them to do this, but for the best interest of you, them, or anyone else who is involved, it's better if you actually go through conflict resolution, which is mostly, you know, mediation, conciliation, or at least negotiation. Through asking certain questions, you can help them actually identify their own concerns in advance. So ask them what do they prefer, what are their needs, what are their hopes, what are their expectations in advance, so you can help them settle or avoid any miscommunication. So let's move now to conflict escalation. So if there is any conflict and you see that it's actually happening, so let me explain to you how conflict escalation dynamic happens. So people usually try to protect their needs by attacking the other or by defending themselves. So let's say I might be, a newcomer, and then the sponsor is just trying to tell me something that I did wrongly. Then I would either attack them and tell them, this is your mistake, you didn't explain to me, or I would try to defend myself. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you accusing me this? So what happened usually when someone defend or someone attack, then the cycle of conflict escalation happens. So one will attack, the other will defend and attack, then the other attack, then defend. And then in there we see the breakdown of the communication between the two parties, and then they become like enemies sometimes, and they don't want to speak to each other until maybe a third party interferes. To respond to escalation rather than either defend yourself or attack the other, we actually propose a strategy which is called CLAIM. That's an acronym. Each word actually in this acronym reflects something. So first, if you are in a situation when there is a conflict, first, don't respond. Take your time to calm yourself and center yourself. Then listen for what's important. Acknowledge what you hear and pause for a response. Then inquire and ask questions. And learn when you are actually inquiring and asking questions to manage your own response as well. So let's dive deeper into each of these strategies. So to center or calm myself, first I need to ground in the moment. Focus on physical sensation. For example, the move of my feet, the probably my hands movement as well, and try to speak to yourself positively. It's okay, it happens, it's okay, I know how to deal with it. Speak to yourself positively rather than negatively, so you avoid escalating the conflict and avoid antagonizing yourself as well, or antagonizing the other. The second strategy is to remove yourself from the situation if you can. So one time I actually was confronted by a refugee family who came to the office, and they were claiming that we stole their money. They thought that the government gives us money, and then we didn't give them the money. They had misinformation that they get a lot of money when they arrive here. So what I did, I asked them to sit, and then I went to the kitchen. I said, I'm gonna go get some tea, water, and then I'll come back. So I went to the kitchen. I tried to do deep breathing, started counting to 10, and then try to visualize a calm scene. For example, for me, always water, green, mountains, calm me down. So while I'm making the tea, I just try to calm myself and imagine myself in a beautiful scenery, just so I don't react right away and try to respond to the situation. So it's better if I actually calm them, ask them to sit, if I can remove myself from the situation, to take a deep breath and try to prepare myself to handle the situation more logically. So in the middle of the claim, we see these three LAI, which is actually the active listening skills. So you could be listening, but probably not actively. So to listen actively, what you need to do is to do the following. First, listen for what's important. So they will be telling you a lot of things. See what's important in the conversation, then acknowledge what they are saying. The way you can acknowledge is by acknowledging what you hear, restating key points, or it could be by restating the key points that they mentioned, by reflecting their feelings, and also reflecting the values and positive intentions. There is a difference between agreeing and acknowledging. We are not asking you to agree. It's wrong to agree because sometimes they might be wrong, sometimes just misunderstanding. And also, if you agree, you'll become the victim, and then they will be attacking you. Then you will defend yourself or attack. Then the cycle of escalation starts again. So instead of saying, for example, you are right, it was inappropriate for me to ask you that question, you just say, you feel it was inappropriate of me to ask you that question. So you are just acknowledging what you heard, okay? And that will open the door for further conversation as well. You could restate the key points that they mentioned. It's important to restate because it shows them that you have heard and understood what they actually said. And also check with them if what you understood is correct or not. So here's an example. So you submitted the documents 3 weeks ago and haven't heard anything back yet. Is that right? You think it's unfair that you are only assigned clients in the hospitals? Is that right? So in this case, we ask if you are right or not for two reasons. First, we want them to not to feel that we are putting words on their mouth or we are dictating what they said on them. Second, to open the conversation. Remember, I said open communication is the key. We have to let them tell us more. We have to let them explain to us more and more. So that's the way, by asking them a question. Reflecting feelings. So you also show them that you actually understand how they feel, and you also help them understand or consider their feelings. Sometimes they are angry. So if you say, I see you are angry, that actually let them or understand, that they seem angry. They may not actually want to be angry or to be shown and seen by others as angry, but they couldn't control themselves. So you let them understand and consider their own behavior and reaction. Also, another way, or this is an example, how to reflect feelings. You are afraid you may get fired if this problem is not resolved soon. Am I right? So you highlighted, the fear that they have been talking about. Another example, you were really angry and felt betrayed when you heard that the client's kids are complaining about your services. Is that right? So active listening, another one is reflecting values and positive intentions. This is very important, especially when we are in a setting where we are actually trying to resolve the conflict or there are different viewpoints. So I try to acknowledge the speaker's value, what's important for them. It's just I want to show them that, I care. I got what you said. I know this is very important for you, or this is what's worrying you. This is what's concerning you. And also, to show respect to them. I respect you are concerned about your privacy, but I don't need to agree. In probably another time when we talk about culture, our values are different also based on the culture upbringing, but I have to respect others' values, even if they are different from mine. Try to recognize any positive intentions and efforts. So if people are making some, maybe compromises, if they are trying to do something good, acknowledge this and recognize that they are doing something good. That could push forward towards resolving the issues. Here's an example. It sounds as though privacy is very important to you. Am I right? So you are saying that when you raised your voice, it was just to get my intention. Is that right? So let's take, for example, this example. Someone is yelling at me. Instead of me yelling back, trying to insult them back, I just, say, why are you yelling? Can you tell me? I see you are angry. Can you tell me why you are angry? So then they'll tell you maybe why they raised their voice, and then you will say, okay, say you are saying that when you raised your voice was just to get my attention. Is that right? So that calm you down, and then move you toward finding a solution. Then we have, after we do that, so we don't go right away into asking the questions. First, we have to acknowledge, we have to listen, we have to probably do and practice the active listening skills. Then encourage the speakers to elaborate. So ask them questions that can help them tell you more about the issues that they are having. Get more information and also ask them to be specific. So when you say that um, the sponsors are not fair to you, can you tell me more about that? Um, Providing safe space is by not blaming them, not judging them, not shaming them, make it as safe as it could by asking questions, by, using also, there are some communication tips that I'll send it to you, nonverbal communication tips that help keep the environment safe for conversation. There are different ways of asking the questions. It could be closed, which actually drive the conversation. So it's leading them to say yes or no. Open-ended question help them tell me more, share their concerns, their fears, their worries. So let me show you how different the question could be, or how we can actually change the question from closed-ended to open-ended. So instead of saying, did you resent that? They'll say yes or no. They might be angry also and then yell at me. But if I say, how did that affect you? Tell me. So then they can explain, and, through talking about their worries and concerns, it can, help them vent out their emotions and, calm down, and then tell you more about the issue. Do you think you might have overreacted? It's kind of blaming too. But if I say, you mentioned earlier that maybe you raised your voice, can you say more about that? So I'm opening the conversation. Also, here I'm kind of inviting them to question their own way of saying, or raising their voice. Always remember, people come to you with certain positions in a conflict, but these positions are reflections of the underlying interest. So they may have concerns. It's based on their experiences. It could be negative experiences, especially in a situation where newcomers are refugees, feelings, needs, values, interests. So in order to understand the positions, we have to unpack the interest. And that would help us actually to move toward problem solving. I have to learn how to manage my response, choose my words and actions very carefully, try not to use any inflammatory language or engage in any aggressive behavior, even if they are probably doing that. But, let me be the person who actually calms the situation, help in resolving the issue through managing my own response. After that, I move to problem solving by involving the other person in problem solving. So I don't need to tell them what to do and how to resolve the issue. Let's sit together. Tell me, how do you see this can be resolved? How do you think I can be fairer to you? How do you think the system can help you? It's a question for them to be involved in problem solving. I can help them suggest possible solutions. I might be more experienced. I might have more options to tell them, but I don't want to enforce anything on them. We can work together, me and them, to find a solution. Remember always, when the solution is actually, when the solution come from them, they feel more satisfied and they also will obey it more.